You know what's crazy? A man can be falling deeply for you, and yet he'll never say it out loud. You'll never hear the words, at least not at first. But if you miss the signs, you might think he doesn't care, when, in reality, his heart is already invested. So today, I'm going to show you 5 clear signs that a man desires you emotionally. He's falling, but he just can't bring himself to say it. Once you see these, you'll never misread his silence again. Now here's the first thing. When a man desires you emotionally, his actions will betray him. He'll start doing little things for you without needing recognition. He grabs your favorite snack, checks in when you've had a long day, or fixes something small without you asking. That's not just kindness. That's his heart trying to stay connected to you. And tell me this in the comments. Have you ever noticed a guy showing affection in small ways but never actually saying how he feels? I'd love to hear your story. And by the way, if you're loving this breakdown and you want more tools to decode how men think and feel, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because once you learn how to read these subtle signals, you'll never feel confused about a man's intentions again. You think men are afraid of commitment? Not really. The truth is, most men are far more afraid of something much stronger than commitment itself. They're scared of falling in love with the one person who has the power to break through their defenses. And here's where it gets interesting. When a man starts wanting you emotionally, he usually won't say it out loud, but he shows it in ways even he can't fully control. If you learn how to notice these 5 signs, you'll know the exact moment he's falling for you, even if he tries to keep it hidden. So let me ask you, have you ever felt that tension with a guy where you know something deeper is going on, but he just won't say it directly? You can almost see it in his eyes, sense it in how he lingers near you, yet he always pulls back right before the words leave his mouth. That's not hesitation, that's emotional desire pushing against his fear. Today, I'll share 5 clear signals that show he's falling for you emotionally, even when he refuses to admit it. Stay with me, because the last one is the one men try the hardest to cover up. When a man desires you on an emotional level, one of the strongest hints is how protective he becomes. And I don't mean in the typical movie sense of him acting tough or stepping into fights. Real protection is much deeper than that. It's in the small, steady ways he shows that your well-being matters to him. A man who is truly emotionally attached develops a quiet sense of responsibility for you. He notices if you're worn out, if your day has been long, or if something is bothering you, and he naturally wants to lighten that load. He may not come out and say the words, "I care about you," but you'll feel it through his actions. Think of the difference between a guy who texts, "Did you get home?" and one who actually waits until you confirm you arrived safely. The first is polite, the second is protective, or the man who offers his jacket without you asking, who walks on the side of the street closest to traffic, or remembers that you dislike walking alone at night and offers to come along. These aren't big dramatic moves, yet they carry weight because they come from a man who wants to shield you in little but meaningful ways. This protective instinct shows up in emotional situations too. If someone upsets you, he doesn't brush it off or act like it doesn't matter. He feels it with you. He might not always have the solution, but he wants to stand beside you while you go through it. Men don't give this kind of emotional support casually. If he is putting his energy into making sure you feel safe, supported, and cared for, it means his heart is already involved, even if he hasn't spoken the words. His protective actions reveal what's inside. This difference is important to notice, because men who aren't emotionally invested may be fun, charming, or even affectionate, but they won't show that deeper sense of concern for your inner peace. A man who only wants you physically won't spend time trying to protect your state of mind. But when he desires you emotionally, your comfort and safety naturally climb high on his list of priorities, whether he realizes it or not. That's how you know his feelings are going further than what he dares to say. Another strong sign that a man wants you emotionally is how present he becomes when he's with you. Presence doesn't just mean being in the same place or hanging out for hours. Real presence is about focus. It's about a man who may not be the best with flowery words, but when you're near, he tunes in completely. He listens with intention. He remembers the little details you shared about that meeting you were nervous about, the story about your family, or how you like your coffee. A man who is emotionally drawn to you doesn't just hear what you say, he absorbs it, because what matters to you starts mattering to him. And that's rare these days. So many people live distracted, always checking their phones, half listening while thinking of something else. But when a man truly wants you emotionally, you notice the difference instantly. He puts his phone away when you're talking. He keeps eye contact. He doesn't interrupt to turn the focus back to himself. Instead, he gives you the gift of full attention, and that is one of the most powerful forms of intimacy. He may not say the words, "I'm falling for you," but his presence says it louder. You'll also see it in how he responds to your emotions. If you're upset, he doesn't dismiss it. If you're happy, he shares your joy. Emotional presence means he's willing to lean into whatever feeling you're having, even if it's uncomfortable for him. Many men naturally keep their distance from heavy emotions because it feels overwhelming. But when a man wants you emotionally, he fights against that urge to pull away. He might not always find the right words, but he'll stay there with you in that moment. That is a quiet but powerful confession of how much he's starting to care. It's not about huge gestures. Presence is that subtle but undeniable shift where you sense he's really with you, not just physically, not just socially, but emotionally tied to your world. When a man gives you that, it's proof his heart is investing in ways he hasn't yet said. Another revealing sign is the way micro-jealousy appears. This isn't about being controlling or possessive. Those come from insecurity, not love. Micro-jealousy is different. It's that small but noticeable change in his energy when another man gives you attention, or when you casually mention someone else. He may not say a thing, but you can feel it instantly. His posture stiffens for a second, his tone changes slightly, or he asks an extra question that shows he was paying closer attention than you thought. What makes micro-jealousy so telling is that it usually isn't planned. Men don't rehearse it. It slips out before they can hide it because emotions are harder to mask than they think. Maybe he makes a playful joke like, "So this guy from work seems to come up a lot in our chats." Or maybe he just gets quiet when you talk about someone else. He doesn't want to look insecure, so he won't admit it directly, but inside he's measuring where he stands with you. That little reaction is his heart giving away more than he wants. Men who aren't emotionally attached don't act this way. If he only sees you casually, he won't care who texts you or who you're spending time with. But when he's beginning to fall for you, when you've started to mean more to him, the idea of someone else having your attention bothers him. He won't always show it openly because he doesn't want to look needy or vulnerable, but the feeling leaks through. That's why it's such a powerful clue. It slips out through the cracks of the walls he's built. You may even notice that in those moments he subtly raises his own value. He might casually bring up his achievements, his plans, or the ways he can be there for you, almost like he's reminding you why he stands out. It's almost like he's competing without admitting it. Deep inside, he wants you to notice why he stands apart. That quiet urge to be chosen over others is a strong signal that his feelings run deeper than surface attraction. Micro-jealousy is his silent way of saying, "You matter to me more than I'm ready to admit right now." When a man wants you emotionally, one of the clearest and yet often missed signs is when his vulnerability begins to slip through. Most men are taught to keep their guard high. They grow up learning to be strong, to hide weakness, and to avoid showing the sides of themselves that could be judged or rejected. But when a man starts to fall for you on a deeper level, small cracks in that armor begin to show. It usually doesn't come as a dramatic confession. Instead, it shows up in quiet, almost unplanned ways. Maybe he tells you about a mistake at work that left him doubting himself. Maybe he shares a piece of his past he rarely talks about, something that shaped him in ways he still carries. Or maybe, during a light-hearted conversation, he suddenly admits he sometimes feels pressure to meet expectations he's not sure he can handle. These moments aren't random, they're signals. They show that with you he feels safer than he usually allows himself to feel with anyone else. Men don't open these doors for women they're only casually interested in. With them, things stay on the surface. Fun, playful, and maybe flirtatious, but never truly revealing. Vulnerability is something a man saves for someone who has begun to matter. So when he starts showing you those glimpses, when he lets you see not just his strengths, but also his fears, doubts, and insecurities, it's because his feelings are pulling him closer. He may not say, "I trust you," but his openness proves it. What makes this sign even more powerful is that men often regret it afterward. He may share something deeply personal and then quickly change the subject or laugh it off because the exposure feels risky. That's why it's so important to notice these little leaks, because they reveal far more than he intends to let slip. It's not just about the words. It's about the fact that he's allowing you to see a side of him he usually hides. That isn't random. That's emotional desire showing itself. Vulnerability leaks are his way of testing the waters, seeing if you'll accept him as he is, not just the polished version he shows to the world. When he shares those cracks in his armor with you, it's not just conversation, it's his silent confession that he's already falling. Another strong sign that a man desires you emotionally is his consistency in effort. Anyone can show up strong at the start with big gestures, sweet words, and bursts of attention, but that excitement usually fades when the interest is shallow. Emotional desire, on the other hand, makes a man steady. He doesn't just appear when it's convenient or when he wants something. He keeps showing up in ways that build real trust. His effort isn't about huge statements. It's about small, steady actions that prove you're not just a passing thought to him. You see this consistency most clearly in how he spends his time. Even if his schedule is packed, he still makes room for you. It might not always be hours of endless attention, but you notice he checks in, he follows through, and he doesn't vanish without explanation. He values your bond enough to keep it alive, even when life is busy. That's because when a man is emotionally connected, you don't stay an option, you become part of his priority list. Consistency also shows up in reliability. If he says he'll call, he does. If he promises to be there, he shows up. Of course, no one is perfect, everyone slips now and then, but his overall pattern makes you feel you can depend on him. And that reliability is one of the strongest ways a man expresses his feelings without words, because to stay consistent, he has to care. Men don't keep putting in effort over time unless their emotions are deeply invested. That's what makes this sign so powerful. It separates him from men who are only caught up in attraction. Those men often start with excitement but quickly fade once the thrill is gone. But when a man is falling for you emotionally, his effort doesn't weaken, it grows stronger. He wants to see you, to connect, to keep building the bond even when it takes work. That kind of steadiness is rare, and it's one of the clearest signals that his heart is already moving toward you. Consistency is his quiet way of saying, "You matter enough for me to keep showing up." And when you notice that pattern, you're not just seeing attraction, you're seeing love beginning to take shape. Finally, one of the most beautiful signs of emotional desire is his unspoken affection. This isn't about obvious gestures like saying, "I like you," or showering you with compliments. It's about the way his feelings show up in small, natural moments when he thinks you won't notice. You see it in the way his eyes stay on you a little longer than usual, or how he pauses before saying goodbye, almost like he doesn't want the moment to end. These small acts carry more weight than big declarations because they're genuine and unplanned. They reveal what's truly in his heart. You might catch it when you notice him watching you as you talk, not just hearing your words but studying your expressions as if he's trying to remember every detail. Or maybe he teases you in playful ways, not just for fun but to keep that emotional spark alive. Sometimes it's in the way he gently touches your arm during a conversation, or how he finds excuses to stand a little closer. He might not even realize it, but his body is saying the words his mouth isn't ready to speak. Unspoken affection also shows up in the little pauses. He doesn't rush to hang up the phone, even when the conversation is basically over. He doesn't pull away first when you hug. He creates these extra moments, as if staying close to you is the most natural thing in the world. Those pauses, those slight hesitations, they're signals that he's emotionally drawn to you in ways he can't fully explain. What makes unspoken affection so powerful is its honesty. Words can be controlled, but these subtle actions are harder to hide. A man might hold back from speaking his feelings because of fear, pride, or timing, but his affection still seeps through his actions. When he wants you emotionally, his love language often shows up as presence, touch, and attention, rather than direct confessions. It isn't loud, but it's impossible to miss. These little signs are easy to overlook if you're only waiting to hear words. But when you notice the quiet ways he tries to stay close, you'll realize his heart is speaking even when his lips are silent. That's the kind of affection that tells you he's already falling, even if he hasn't openly admitted it. When a man desires you emotionally, one of the strongest signs you'll pick up on is the way he begins doing little things for you without being asked. These are acts of service, and they often reveal his feelings louder than words ever could. Most men don't go out of their way for someone, unless there's a deeper pull guiding them. When he's falling, helping you, supporting you, or making your life easier becomes almost automatic for him. He might not even realize he's doing it, but it's his way of showing care when saying it out loud still feels too vulnerable. It might be something simple, like remembering to bring you the snack you casually mentioned, or your coffee exactly the way you like it. It could show up when he notices you struggling with something and quietly steps in to take care of it. Not for attention or thanks, but because he truly wants to lighten your load. Whether it's fixing something at your place, giving you a ride without you asking, or checking in to make sure you ate on a tough day. These acts may seem small, but they're heavy with meaning. They're proof that he's thinking about you, even when you're not there, and that your comfort has become part of his own priorities. What makes this so powerful is the intention behind it. A man who's only casually interested won't bother going beyond what's easy or convenient. He might show up for fun, for excitement, or for affection, but he won't invest steady effort into making your life better. A man who desires you emotionally, on the other hand, begins to see your happiness and peace of mind as something important to him. He shows his care through his actions because, for many men, showing love feels safer through doing rather than speaking. Sometimes he'll even downplay what he does. He won't always mention it or ask for recognition because doing it for you is enough. That quiet behind-the-scenes support is one of the most honest ways men reveal their feelings. He may not come right out and say, "I'm falling for you," but every time he goes out of his way, he's saying it through his actions. Acts of service are his unspoken love language, his way of telling you that you matter enough for him to step in and help make your life lighter. Another clear sign that a man desires you emotionally is how careful he becomes when it comes to conflict. Most men aren't naturally afraid of arguments. In fact, with people they don't care deeply about, they might fight, brush it off, or walk away without a second thought. But when he's emotionally invested, things change. The idea of losing closeness with you feels risky. He may still get annoyed or upset sometimes, but underneath it all there's a quiet fear. He doesn't want to damage what he has with you. You'll notice this in the way he chooses his words when you're upset. Instead of firing back instantly, he pauses, trying to avoid saying something he'll regret. You'll see him soften his tone or circle back later to smooth things over if there was a disagreement. He may not always be great at expressing himself, but he'll try to repair things because distance from you feels uncomfortable. That effort isn't just about keeping the peace. It's about keeping you. Sometimes it shows in subtle ways. He might compromise more quickly, letting go of being right because preserving the connection matters more than winning the argument. Or you might notice that even when he's frustrated, he still checks in on you, making sure you're okay. He can't fully pull away because his heart is tied to your well-being. This kind of carefulness in conflict is one of the strongest signals of emotional desire. Men who aren't truly invested don't bother. They'll fight, pull back, or even disappear. But the man who's falling for you will swallow his pride, because the thought of losing harmony with you feels too costly. It doesn't mean he'll never disagree with you or never get upset. But you'll see the difference in how he handles it. His concern isn't just about the fight, it's about making sure you still feel connected afterward. That instinct comes from emotional depth. Even if he hasn't said the words, "I care about you," or "I'm falling for you," the way he moves carefully in conflict shows it. For him, protecting the bond matters more than protecting his ego, and that's one of the clearest unspoken signs that he's already emotionally yours. So when you put all of this together, the truth becomes clear. A man who desires you emotionally doesn't always express it with words, but he can't help showing it through his actions. It leaks out in the way he protects you, in how present he is when you're together, in those little flashes of jealousy he tries to cover up, in the moments when his guard drops and you see his real self. It shows in his consistency, in the quiet affection he can't hide, in the little acts of service he does without being asked, and even in the way he handles conflict. Because keeping you close matters more to him than winning. The signs are always there if you know how to read them. And once you begin noticing them, you'll stop second-guessing yourself or waiting endlessly for words that may not come right away. Because the truth is, love usually begins in the quiet language of actions, long before it shows up in words. And when you see these signs, you can trust that what you have isn't just surface attraction. It's something real, something meaningful, something already growing deep in his heart. And this is where many people overlook the truth about how men reveal their emotions. They expect loud declarations, constant compliments, or dramatic gestures. But in reality, real feelings often whisper instead of shout. A man who is slowly falling for you might not be ready to put everything into words, but you'll see it in the quiet patterns of how he treats you. He may not always tell you that you're on his mind, but you'll notice he remembers small details you shared weeks ago. He may not always express affection directly, but he'll show up when you need him, even if it's inconvenient for him. That's how love often slips through the cracks of daily life, less in grand speeches and more in consistent, thoughtful actions. One powerful thing to notice is how he prioritizes you without even realizing it. When a man desires you deeply, you'll often find yourself woven into his routine. He'll make time for you even when life is busy. He'll include you in his plans or adjust them around you, not because he feels forced to, but because it feels natural to have you in his world. He might check in before making decisions that affect both of you, or he'll start introducing you to people who matter to him, showing you that you're becoming part of his inner circle. This shift isn't accidental. It's his way of building a space for you in his life long before he says the words out loud.